He hasn't been the busier of the two, but if you're looking forward to later on in a week and a bit, you got to feel good about the way the Leafs goaltending has been settled in terms of Samsonov. And here we got an opportunity. What a great moment.
Just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, exactly. This is great. In Edmonton, similar thing. Matt Berlin came in, and here Samsonov with a pass on Jett Alexander. What a moment for him with 1:10 in a 7-1 game.
What a gesture from Samsonov to a young goaltender who might not have wanted this call to the second period.
That might have been a little much then.
But embraces this one.
What a great moment. It's your dream to be in this position. Nothing but smiles. How about that? Gotta love it.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid. University of Toronto Blue. Former North York Ranger, Georgetown Raider.
Look at the crowd. They loving it.
Well, Jett, 70 seconds of what I'm sure was unexpected NHL experience that now under your belt. How will you remember it?
Yeah, definitely special. Didn't think that was going to be the outcome of today when I woke up, but luckily, guys played a really good game and got put in a good situation, and glad I could have my family, friends, here to enjoy it too. So definitely special, something I'll remember.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Voices of Vic podcast. Today I'm here with a very incredible guest. Looking forward to the conversation. He is an English and environmental science student. He is famously known for signing an amateur tryout contract on April 8th, 2023 with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and served as the team's backup goalie against the Montreal Canadiens. That was a destruction that the Leafs had in that night.
Thanks for the intro. I got lucky. I was a beneficiary of a good situation that worked out for me, obviously. The Leafs really did put a pounding on them that night. So
absolutely. We'll dive deeper into the Leafs story. We're going to talk about a lot. We'll talk about Varsity Blues, what it's like to be a college athlete. We'll talk about the fundraiser, more importantly, men's health, all of that stuff. But to start, I think it's important for people to kind of get to know who you are, dive deep into your personality, where you come from, your start, how you're at UofT. Maybe just give the people a bit of an introduction to who you are. Jett Alexander. I don't know if I mentioned your name.
I guess I'll give a little bit of a rundown about how I ended up here, sitting on this couch with you today. Long story short, I guess through hockey. Hockey's definitely, kind of being a leader in my life in terms of like where it's taken me, opportunities that have opened up, obviously with things like you mentioned with the Leafs and stuff. I grew up in a small town in Prince Edward County on a farm. My parents still live there, still run the same farm today. Played hockey my entire life. Tried to do my best in school, and then ultimately ended up playing junior hockey in Ontario for a bit, finished my last year out in BC in Prince George, and then, got the opportunity I was offered a spot here at UofT to be on the team, and, got into the school and kind of just been working away at that for the last 4 years. And then, lucky enough, obviously, to be a member of the Varsity Blues and, play on that prestigious team. It's been around for 100 years, and the culture is something that you can really feel in that room. And I'm just very, very lucky that like I said, hockey's kind of brought me all these places. And obviously you have to be a good student and everything, but I think hockey's kind of been like one of the guiding factors in my life for sure.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. I like talking to another farm boy here. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself, I didn't grow up on a farm. Orangeville, though, you have that, right? It's like kind of a town area. Most of the students at U of T, it's very city. And yesterday I was at the Royal Winter Fair, the cow show. If anyone doesn't know, it's a big cow show. Farmers from all over Ontario. I feel like very few from Toronto probably come to show their cows, and it was a great event. But I felt more at home at that event than I think I've ever felt in the city since I got to U of T. Like, it's just, do you think that you kind of ever get that missing feeling from the people at home?
That's funny you mentioned the Royal. My parents, used to go to the horse show there every year. We'd bring our own horses up and stuff. My dad actually, since he was a kid, he grew up on a dairy farm and they had horses too. So his whole life he's been going to the Royal,
Nice.
whether it's showing cattle or horses. So I definitely do miss that aspect of my life. I think that's something that, the hard work of being a farmer, growing up in that environment definitely has molded me into the person I am today. I think, work ethic and is something that, was really built from a young age. And I was lucky that both my parents are, two of the hardest working people you'd ever meet. Genuine and just kind of worked for everything they have. And I think, obviously part of the reason I'm here today too is because of all the work that they've done. And I definitely do miss that aspect of my life. It is tough to kind of replicate that. But, I think too, that's part of maybe what's helped me, in hockey, understanding to be a good teammate and accepting roles and stuff. Because you just have to do things you don't want to do. Growing up in that environment, it's hard work, and I've seen my parents sacrifice a lot. And I think that's something that, is really valuable to greater life skills. So I think obviously there's times I miss it. And then, if I go home for a while and I'm working and, things get tough and it's, a rainy, crappy day outside and you're stuck outside, fixing fence and covered in dirt and, then those are the days where you wish you were back in the city. But, obviously it's nice every time, I get to go home and spend time with my parents, and I'm lucky that they get to come up to, most of our home games and games in the GTA as well. It's only a couple hours. So, I still get to see my family a lot, which I'm really grateful for too.
That's awesome. I think it's extremely important that it's ingrained at a young age, that, you grow up with that work ethic. It comes directly from your parents, whether it be on the farm or just in the household. The idea of seeing they're your role models at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to kids model their parents in terms of work ethic and personality and a lot of other ways. If you were to have kids, would you want them growing on a farm as well?
I don't know if I would, if I would say that that's the life that I would want to give my kids, not because I'm not, ungrateful for it or anything. It's just, it comes with, there's a lot more that goes into it. And I think now that I'm older, I understand it a bit more, but when I'm growing up, if I didn't do stuff around home, or, help my parents out, there was always a price to pay. I would have to miss a practice or miss whatever it may be. Not really as a punishment, but just because there's other things that have to get done. And I think, when I was younger, I would be upset and be mad at my parents and, not really understand. But now I think, I understand that more, valuing time management and stuff. If I could raise my kids on a farm, I don't know, I think I'd still want to instill the same values of respecting, your surroundings and having your priorities in place. It's kind of hard to really replicate that without growing up in that environment. But I think just the values that come with it, I think, are something that are important and that I will try to instill, in my kids and, in my future and stuff like that. Because I think that's something that, it's an intangible that really gets you through life.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. My dad's from Mexico, so his upbringing was something that really it translates into me, and I'm grateful for it that he came from a place that was a little, harder. And I think that that's necessary as a young boy to kind of see that you need to work for what you want, and that's the only path for it. And I think the answer to any problem in life really is to generally work harder. Mm-hmm. And it's good to instill your kids with that. Talk about the Varsity Blues. You guys are on a pretty good run right now, 7-3. Mm-hmm. How was the recruitment process of getting onto that team? Who reached out? When did it all happen?
So my recruitment maybe a little bit different than most guys. Usually kind of happens, as your last year is winding down in junior. So most guys come into school at 21 or 20 after your last year of eligibility in junior hockey. So that's kind of like the general, route, maybe around that December period. Christmas break usually I think is when a lot of guys, either start committing or start having those conversations. I was a bit different because I played in North York the year before I went to BC, and two of my teammates from my North York days were Kyle Clark and Ross Krieger, both Varsity Blues. Kyle came here 2 years before me, then Ross came the following year. So I'd kind of seen that recruitment process through North York with UofT with Ryan Medell and Doves, our assistant coach, and kind of understood a little bit more about how that worked. And then I had a little bit of a foot in the door because they'd been watching me for kind of 2 years leading up until my last year of junior. So I'd had some, conversations with them, and then I probably got, I came home at Christmas for my overage year in BC and came on a tour and stuff, and, talked to the coaches and, was lucky enough to have the opportunity to have a spot offered to me. And then obviously you have to go through the transcript process of it all too, which is probably the most difficult part because there's a lot of good hockey players, but I think it's hard, or maybe a little bit less common. You have to have really good grades to get in. And
Absolutely.
I was lucky enough that, I was able to get into school with my high school grades and stuff. So ended up probably committing around April of that year and came the following year. So, but it is a process because like I said, there's more than just the hockey aspect. It's great if the coaches love you as a hockey player, but you also have to obviously be a good person. And that's part of what, the coming here and doing the tour and meeting everyone was about. And then obviously the grade aspect as well.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is that I think in Canadian universities, there's a lower emphasis on the collegiate sports than in the US. And I think that most people know that, but what that also means is, like you said, about emphasizing on grades, not only in the States, yes, the college athletes, they pull a lot of money, whatever, they're superstars. But in Canada, not only are they college athletes, not only are they great at their sport, but that they got the IQ as well. They're smart people. The whole roster is filled with smart people, especially at U of T, right? So, what do you think about that aspect of, did you choose U of T? Did it tip the scale because it's such a prestigious school academically, or was it mainly the sports aspect?
I mean, a little bit of both, I'd say. I definitely had conversations with schools in the States as well in terms of, going there. And it's kind of the same process. You have to obviously get into the school and stuff as well there. But then, when it kind of came winding down, there was other offers from a couple other schools in Canada or Canadian universities and stuff. But U of T was always kind of that was my choice if I was going to go to school in Canada, which ended up obviously being what happened. And I just think I knew, partially because I knew guys that were here, I knew the program had a really, really, deep culture, and I knew the guys that I knew on the team, I knew the kind of guys they were in terms of what they were like as a teammate, their work ethic and stuff. And I think that was part of it as well. And obviously, I understand how valuable it is to have a U of T degree, and the privilege it is to get to go to the school. So that's just something I didn't want to pass up.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fair. Believe it or not, actually, you're not the first attendee we've had on the podcast. My cousin goes to college in the States. Mm-hmm. She goes to Liberty University, and great goalie, in my opinion. But she talks a lot about just the difference in culture between the two countries. It's hockey in the States is not that huge, but when you're going to college, the college sports it's just an incredibly different level. I don't know how else to explain it, but at U of T, hockey, Canada, this is maybe the best sport you could play in this country. It's the best university you could go to in this country. It's basically as high as you can get in terms of Canadian collegiate sports, in my opinion, is the UofT hockey team, which is very impressive. What prestige comes with playing on the Varsity Blues hockey team? Like, it's a very strong culture, as you said. We make jokes on the podcast a lot about, varsity backpacks, how it raises you to the top tier of a UofT student, right? So like what kind of accolades come with it? What kind of, you get a lot of more respect? Like how are you treated differently as a varsity athlete here?
I don't know if I'd say we're treated any differently. I think obviously it's funny because I always see the varsity backpacks around too, and I'm always looking at what sport it is on the back, trying to figure it out, who it is. I think like I kind of said, like you have to understand it's such a privilege to be a part of the program, especially here at our hockey team. You see the amount of championships they've won over the last 100 years, like Allen Cup championships, provincial, national medals and stuff. It's something that makes you want to be remembered the way that those guys were, right? And you want to ultimately, I think something that we talk about a lot is, and our coaches really instill, is you want to leave this program better than when you found it. Yeah. And we're a team that's having success right now. We've had success over the last couple of years. But 10 years ago, I think, the program was kind of in the other direction, and it's turned around, which is amazing. And I think that's something that, the guys in the room take pride in as well, is obviously we want to win a national championship this year, but if, 2 years down the line, guys that are, in their first and second years that, I might have had a little bit of influence on, have the opportunity to do that, then that's something that I would feel, I would take pride in as well. And I think that's something that everyone in that dressing room and, everyone, that's involved with our team, whether it be coaches, support staff, training staff, everyone, I think that there's just a really good understanding of, how lucky we are to have that opportunity. Yeah. And you don't want to take it for granted because, man, it goes by quick. And I know that's a cliche thing to say, but I remember coming here, my first year was in COVID, that COVID year when we didn't play and everything was online. And I lived with 4 other guys on the team. There was 5 of us in an apartment. Yeah. And, man, was it fun being with those guys every day. But then once we all got back to being on the ice and stuff, you could just tell how much everyone missed it. And I think, that's something that I maybe took for granted my first year, is not really understanding that whole aspect of being a student athlete, just really being an athlete or a student that year. So really only getting 3 years of that. I'm just trying to make the most of it. And I think, all the guys graduating with me are probably in the same boat. Just, trying to really soak it all in. And obviously it's great. We've had a great start, but I think just trying to enjoy it every day is something that I've kind of brought into this year as well, whether it be a good game, a bad game, a good weekend, a bad weekend in terms of wins or losses. Just really trying to enjoy every moment with the guys. And trying to leave that, like I said, leave the program better than it was when I found it. That's
awesome. There's a patriotic aspect to it too, right? You get to go play for the capital of the province, Toronto, biggest city in the country, and instead of leaving to play for some team in the U.S. that you don't really feel any, I guess, personal connection to, hometown connection to. But no, that's cool. How have you grown so far up to this point in these 3 years? COVID didn't really make it easy on you, but up to this point.
Yeah, I think I probably came in obviously naive, like most university students. I mean,
fair.
And that COVID year is kind of weird, right? Like you said, it's tough. Everything was online, all my tests and all that. I didn't really get that whole aspect of embracing that grind, really. Yeah. But then, definitely the last 3 years have helped me grow as a person, as a teammate, friend, everything. It's something that, I'm very, very grateful for. The life lessons you learn, you learn how to win and, win as a team and be proud of what you've accomplished, but also not letting your highs get too high. And the same time when you lose, you learn from it and, I think again, like that's just something that translates directly into life. Not everything's going to go your way all the time. And I think if you have the mental capability and, you can battle that adversity, that's something that is going to, help you down the line, whether it be getting a job in work, in life, your relationships, anything like that.
Yeah. Did you have any mentors going into first year? Because you're now an older player. You got a lot of younger guys coming in. Like, are there any first years on the team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We probably have like 6 or 7.
There you go. So now you're serving as the mentor to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what, if you had any mentors, like who were they? But more importantly, what made them like good leaders? And did you take anything from that?
100%. Definitely have guys that I looked up to, and still look up to now, that were on the team. Like I said, I lived with 5 guys, or 4 other guys. Riley Bruce was one of them, who was our captain my first year of playing. Alex Bishop was, starting goalie. Had an unbelievable university career here. Jake Bryan, one of my roommates. Ross Krieger, another roommate. One of my best buddies for a long time. Played junior together and stuff too. So those guys, I spent pretty much all my life with them. Those 2 years we lived together, and it was like I kind of got to watch those guys and study their study habits, how they approach school. Nobody there, none of those guys that I mentioned really, took it for granted or brushed it off. Like, they all took school very, very seriously. All did very well in school.
Yeah.
All have good jobs. They're very smart. And just good friends as well. I think that's something that I also learned is like you're ultimately you're a friend and a teammate. But like you're a friend first, I think.
Yeah.
And like I kind of mentioned before, like accepting your roles and stuff. Like, I didn't really play my first year.
Yeah.
And I kind of learned from Alex Bishop, one of my best buddies, and it was really cool in that regard. And I have a whole bunch of guys that from my first year here when we didn't really play, and then my first year as a varsity athlete, basically. Yeah. That have graduated in those 2 years and moved on, and I talk to them, pretty much daily still. Was with a bunch of them yesterday, actually. We went axe throwing and stuff, so it's just kind of funny. Like, those are the, friends that I have for life, and I think that's probably, about as good of a lesson as you can get, as you just learn how to be a good teammate and how to contribute in any aspect that you can.
That's good. What do you think about the idea of like choosing a leader based off of their, I guess, projection? All right, quick camera break. I was asking you about assigning leaders based on their projection, based on what they're expected to do. Because we're seeing a lot of that in the NHL, even like with contracts. Guys are now being signed not for what they've proven already, but kind of where we expect them to be in, 4 years, 8 years down the line. So that can also come into play with choosing a leader, choosing a captain. Connor Bedard's probably going to end up being the captain of Chicago, right? Even though he's younger than me, younger than you, right?
Yeah. But
we expect amazing things. So do you think that's a fair way to kind of choose a leader, or should it be based off of what they've already proven they can do?
That's a good question. It's kind of tricky. I mean, I think there is like something to say about putting too much expectations on a kid. Like you kind of mentioned Connor Bedard, like that's, he's supposed to be a superstar, and I'm sure he will be, but he's obviously a great NHL player now, and he's only going to get better. But like he'll probably be a captain in the next 2-3 years, really, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how the NHL has been going lately. Same thing with McDavid. Like Crosby was probably the first real, example of that, like a captain at 19 or whatever,
Said the
20,
kid.
yeah, right? Like, and obviously he turned out to be, arguably one of the best players to ever play the game. So I think you have to know the individual, and if they can handle that. Yeah. And obviously, I think all those guys will be able to handle that, not knowing them personally. And like Crosby, obviously, has turned into be one of the best captains to ever play. And McDavid, I'd say, is doing pretty good for himself too. So
I think so.
I think there is like obviously you name your captain based off of like the qualities that they have and that they're going to bring out of others.
Yeah.
But your captain doesn't have to be your best player. And I think, there's teams that have great success. Oftentimes that's the case. Maybe not their, best offensive player, but like understands what they're going to bring to the table every night, and they're consistent. And I think that's something that's really valuable. Captains are always, the best captains are the guys that are really well liked in the room.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky pretty much my entire life. All the captains I've had on my teams have been, guys that everyone kind of gravitates towards.
Yeah.
Whether that be because they're funny, but they also bring it every day and work hard and understand that, they set the example for everyone else. Some guys are louder than others. Some just lead by example. So I think like there's a lot of intangibles that go into it, and coaches aren't, naive in picking a captain. It's not like you're, coaching, novice and you pick your son to be the captain because you think he's the best player. Like
that's right.
That's not the case, right? Like, an example, like Cole Purbu is our captain. He's my age. He's graduating this year. Everyone just loves that guy.
Yeah.
Just like, obviously a great player, and leads by example that way, but like goes out of his way to make sure everyone feels welcome off the ice as well. And he knows how to relay messages to guys, and he knows how to get the most out of everyone. And I'm lucky, like he's a really good friend of mine, and we spend a lot of time away from each other, or away from the rink with each other. So I think there's a bond there, and I think that's something that he also makes sure he has with all the other guys. Like he just someone that is going to be caring and a good teammate above anything else.
Absolutely. I think leading by example is definitely the most effective way to captain a team. Not even put athletics aside. I mean, I think in general, people will follow someone who leads by example. Mm-hmm. They're showing that they'll put themselves through the fire, and they expect you to follow them. You know what I mean? I don't think that's very effective for someone to just kind of have a big mouth and expect things to get done. Maybe they've proved themselves in the past. You could do that, but there has to be proof of concept. You have to show that you've done it too. And I think that's the most effective way to get things done there. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the fundraiser that you guys are doing for Movember. How can people donate? Why did you guys set it up? All that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's something we've done. I think every year since I've been here, we've had some sort of Movember page and team page going. I mean, Movember, you can tell the mustache. I had a little bit of a head start, so I cheated a bit. But obviously just trying to raise money for, men's, physical health, mental health. I think it's something that is getting talked about more and more, and that's great. Everyone has their own struggle, and I think, as a society, we're becoming more accepting of that, especially on, the male side of it. Like, I think that's something that I remember growing up, and like, I mean, 15 years ago, whatever, like there wasn't these conversations, and the stats are there, and like, you can see, all the leading categories kind of typically fall under the male gender, I guess, if you wanted to say it like that. And I think it's something that still needs to be talked about more, and I think that's just kind of our goal is raise money for that. Obviously everyone has their own impact from mental health, and I'm someone that's had my own battles with it as well, and I think that's just like you got to be willing to talk about it. And I think we're lucky, we have a team and a support staff, like I mentioned, everyone that's always there for you. So I think it's kind of our duty to do something like that and try to make an impact, and change kind of the narrative a little bit, and have everyone feel really accepted. It's kind of I think the end goal of it too.
Absolutely. That's a good cause. What do you think has made this conversation more relevant today? Because I feel like, yes, we're talking about it more, but you could also see that the mental health, physical health crisis is also ramping up as well. So the conversation is coming because the problem is increasing. What do you think the reason for that is? I know that's like a big question, but like, is it related to social media? Is it related to interpersonal relationships? Like, what's going on, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's always been like that, you know, there's always been an issue there. I just don't think it was ever really talked about or diagnosed before. Like, you know, like my dad's generation. I mean, he's an old school farmer.
Yeah.
And you know, like they just would have never talked about how they're feeling or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think now, like you said, like social media and stuff is obviously made the world seem a lot smaller. We're more connected to everything that's going on around us than ever before. We see what's going on all over the world. And I think like just like scrolling through your phone like that, like you see something sad, like whether or not you really process it, like it impacts you. Obviously, there's things directly associated to you too that cause that. And, you know, everyone's, like I said, like everyone's kind of got their own battle going on that no one really knows everything about. So I think it's just like trying to accept each other now is really, you know, I think the most important thing, and being able to listen and to talk to each other about it. You know, like not being the whole macho man thing. I think everyone knows now that that's not the cool thing to do. And, you know, being able to tell your buddies you're there for them, you know, your friends, whoever it may be, that, you know, that you're someone that they can trust to have a conversation with and be open to. And I think that's something too, like that, you know, talking about the team, like that's something we try to do as well. You know, we talked about leadership and captains and stuff, and like you got to be able to be there for one another, and you have to care about each other. And I think, you know, that's again, kind of the reason that we want to do something to support men's health.
It's good. I think that you mentioned a good point about having that kind of support network, you know, your group of guys that you tend to lose with age. I think most guys, you know, their friends fall off, you know, you go in different directions, life takes you places. I think that could be step one to kind of fixing a big problem with this, because a lot of the best memories, I'm sure you'd agree, some of the best memories guys have in their lives is like back in high school with their boys, and whatever the night ended up, you know, being. Yeah. It was always something to remember. The laughs, everything, camaraderie, all of that's super important. So I completely agree with that. I also find it interesting, talking to you, you're a U of T athlete, the link between physical and mental health. I think that you could find a correlation there. I think that a lot of the times when your physical health, when you know, go to the gym, when you play hockey, when you do a sport, when you run, whatever, that really, really benefits your mind as well, right? It's your body is your temple. So I think that, just tell me about like, has sports and, you know, being in shape, how has that like kind of helped you out? Because I think a lot of people could listen to that, being in amazing shape, strong, because I think that's what guys are looking for, right? They want to be strong always from the moment you were young, you wanted to be a superhero. Yeah. So what do you think about like that link?
Yeah, I think definitely like there's a physical aspect that 100% you're right there, like that there's a link between when you feel good physically, you're going to feel better mentally for the most part, just because, you know, obviously there's the whole, you know, genetic, I don't know anything about the way that our
we're not biology majors.
Yeah, like, I don't know how that stuff all works, but I know
neurotransmitters.
I know it makes you feel better. And I think, like, obviously, there's a flip side of that, too. Like, yeah, sure, when you're playing great and you're having fun at the rink and things, you're kind of in that flow state of mind, things seem easy, like, your mental health's probably going to be a lot better. But then guys get hurt. You know, guys are out. Guys need surgery. Guys, like, that stuff plays a huge role, too. Like, that can be really, really mentally draining. You know, we have guys that are injured now, missing time, and you know, I know they'd love to be out there, and that part's really tough too, right? Like you have to be able to understand that too, and I think that's, again, like, you got to be able to reach out to those guys and say, hey, how are you doing? Like, you know, are you making out okay? Like, do you need to do anything? Whatever. Just being aware of everyone else's surroundings, even though like right now, you know, we have a lot of guys injured. And we've kind of caught that injury bug early in the year, and I think that's something that I've made an effort to do. I know other guys have as well, like reaching out to the guys that are hurt. You know, because you can kind of feel like you're a little bit distanced from things.
Absolutely.
And even like, that's not to say like if you're playing great and you're in great shape and you feel like you can still have obviously your own struggles. But I think there definitely is like a physical link. You're right, towards like when you feel good physically and things are kind of going your way, in whatever aspect of your life you're doing, whether it be games or school or work, whatever. Like you're gonna have a better, you know, you're gonna have better mental health probably overall. So
yeah, I truly believe that men need to feel needed in life. So in the context of like team, if you're injured, that's like the most obvious way of you can't help your team win. Like physically, you can't even get onto the ice. You can't contribute. I think that's a huge factor that could play into it in terms of men want to produce. Men want to, you know, have a role. They want to contribute. And I mean, I can't imagine, like I've had to sit out a game just because there was one day I had an exam. I came to the game, you know, in the middle of the second period, and I had to watch the team play for 1 period. I wasn't even injured, and that was impossible. That's hard. It's hard to look at your team play and you know you can't get out there. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. Yeah, I was listening to this video as a psychotherapist named Adam Lane Smith. He was talking about how therapy right now for men is not treating the root kind of needs of what they're looking for. Like, yes, I'm not saying it's completely pointless to, you know, open up, talk about how you're feeling, have someone to kind of communicate with, bounce ideas off of. But I think at the root of it, it's men need to feel needed. And I think that's extremely important.
yeah, I mean, especially like in the team regard, for sure. You're right. Like, I mean, there's nothing worse than watching the guys, you know, struggle in a game or be in a close game and you have no impact on it. And because it's for reasons you can't control, right? Like you got injured, whatever it is. So I think that's definitely, you know, a big aspect of it. It has a huge impact. Like you want to be able to contribute in any way you can. But I think again, like there's just, whether you're hurt or you're just, you know, not in the lineup, whatever, like it's just part of the sport, part of the team aspect too. And it's being able to put others before, or to put the greater good of the team or whatever, whether it be sport or work, whatever your relationship, sometimes above your own. And that's hard to do. And it's a difficult balance too, right? Like you got to put yourself first at some point too. And it's tough in that way. So I think you're right though. Like it's definitely, especially, I know like just, you know, growing up playing hockey and being around that camaraderie too, like when you're not around the guys all the time, like you miss it. And like, it's something, you know, that's kind of scary to think about. Like when you're done hockey, like I'm always like, well, where am I going to get that? Like, where am I going to get that dressing room, like goofy conversation where you're making fun of each other or whatever it is. Right. Like that's something that, you know, I think pretty much every guy that's retired from, you know, playing professional or playing whatever level of hockey would tell you, like, that's like what you'd miss the most.
Absolutely.
Like like obviously you love playing the game and love winning and all that and embracing that grind. But like the thing you miss the most is like the, you know, hanging out in the dressing room after practice or after a game or whatever it is, or, you know, doing stuff off the ice together. I
completely agree. Absolutely. It's tough. Like how do you have to set your life up in a way that doesn't just go away after college. It's tough to think about. It's like like you said, where are you going to get it? Because right now it's sports, but I wouldn't want to just accept my fate of, all right, I'm going to lose this once I graduate. Like you need to kind of know how important that is. I think that people do know now that that's a huge thing, and you need friendships. Don't just, you know, let life blow you in whatever direction it wants to take you. There is more talk about therapy for men, and a lot of men reject therapy. I have never been one for therapy myself. If there was ever a time I was struggling, I really wanted to, you know, keep that independence. And people would say that this is stigmatizing it, but I think that's kind of an easy word to throw around. Just like, oh, there's stigma around therapy. There's like people need to stop stigmatizing therapy. But I think that it's more important to actually look at the reason why men reject therapy. Why are men not wanting to go to the office? Why are they not wanting to open up? Why do they not want to talk to someone? And I think that it's really important for men to feel that independence, they don't want to feel like a burden. They don't want people to pity them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of how therapy is perceived. And I'm not even saying that it's not accurate. I think that, I don't know, I wouldn't want to go to an office and kind of feel like a victim. I'd want to kind of feel in control of my own life. So I don't think the answer is to try to convince men that therapy is good for them, or that, you should open up and you should talk about your feelings. I'm not saying that those things are bad. Obviously, you need a group of guys, as we were saying, that you can kind of connect to, bounce ideas off of. But at the core of it, I think you need to find a purpose. And I think men are more looking for solutions, and they want to know how to be useful. And that's something that's missing. An example, here's an analogy that I thought of. Because I have friends that go to therapy. I know guys who go to therapy. And they'll talk about it and they'll defend it, and we'll go back and forth about our different opinions. And my basic analogy is that, let's say you had your leg stuck in a stamping press. All right, you work for Honda, you get your leg stuck in a factory in a stamping press, and then I come along and I say, "Oh shit, Jett's gonna die. The stamp is coming down on him. If I don't get his leg out, it's gonna crush his entire body. He's gonna be dead." So my solution is to come over with a chainsaw. I cut your leg off. Okay. Saved your life. You might even thank me, right? You would have died if nothing happened. If you just stayed there, it would have crushed you. But in reality, what I could have done is not taken the chainsaw. I could have just turned the power off to the press. I could have just, I don't think stamping press is just like a wire, but turn the power off, shut it off.
Yeah.
That way we could have got your leg out, fixed it, no problem. I think therapy is kind of like the chainsaw. It helps men get out of this torturous pain that a lot of them are feeling. And it's tough. I'm not saying that just ignore how you're feeling. I'm saying feel those emotions. I don't know if therapy is the answer. I think that there are better alternatives. It helps to have someone to talk to. I need to clarify that. I'm not trying to get I don't want to get canceled or burnt on this, but I don't know if it's the optimal solution.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I think the whole thing though that's important is people need to feel like you shouldn't feel guilty or ashamed if you need to go talk to somebody. I think that's probably the biggest part of it, right? Is you don't want to seem like you're soft or whatever and like you said, you want to feel like you're in control. But I think I've talked to therapists. I've gone down that route before. And I think it's honestly helped me for the better. I would be an advocate for it. I understand what you're saying, but I think that there's definitely maybe it's not a permanent fix, and I understand that aspect of it, but I think it gives you tools to be able to combat difficult times and to try to maybe understand why you're feeling that way. If you're angry and you don't know why, or you're frustrated or something triggers you and you don't know why, something you see online, something someone says to you and you don't understand why that's so aggravating. I think it's valuable to understand why you don't feel that, that makes you feel that way. And I think it's something probably when I was in my, mid to late teens, started to really, someone that I had my own battles with anxiety and things in that regard, and to the point where I didn't know what to do. And I seeked help. I got help. Obviously, it's not gone forever, and I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to go away forever. They don't have the magic solution. But I think if you're putting in an effort to try to, I don't know if better yourself is the right word, but to improve and to get to know why you feel things and why you may react to things, and why things may upset you. I think that's that's growth, in my opinion. I think that's something that, I've tried to do to better understand myself, and to also, make myself maybe more enjoyable to be around, or to be able to better handle my own emotions. And I think the last, I think our generation is kind of changing that. And I think not like therapy isn't for everyone. Not everyone needs to have a therapist. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone, that's perfectly fine. I don't know the other solutions, like the alternatives, but like, I think everyone needs to have some, form of outlet, basically. And yeah, I mean, I think, I will still continue to use it if I feel I need to, just because I think I want to be the best version of myself, and there's times when you're not, and that's okay. And I think you just need to, be aware of how you feel, and not try to shut that out, basically. And I think that's kind of also part of like Movember. Like, I mean, obviously there's the physical aspect of, men's health, all different kinds of forms of cancer and stuff that affect people, and, affect people that love those people as well. So, and then the mental health side, I think they kind of go hand in hand, right? Like we talked about physical health and how it leads to mental health, a bit earlier. And, I can't begin to imagine what it would be like if I was, in a situation where I didn't have, physical health. And I think that, that would really deplete you mentally too. Right. Fair. So I think it's just like they go hand in hand, and I think you got to be able to have somebody you can talk to. And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't need to be a therapist. It can be, your best friend, someone that you just feel comfortable, relaying information to.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just think you have to be willing to be open, and that's a hard thing to do, right? Like, especially as a guy, like you said, like it's tough. You want to be in control, but sometimes I think when you aren't in control and you can accept that, and then you try to understand why, I think that's something that can be really beneficial.
Yeah. And I think that it's good for you it's good that men will go through this pain, because it allows them to help their friends down the line. Because I think that understanding what that feels like allows you to kind of be in a position where you can say, what would I want to hear when I was in that state, right? Like, what was I looking for when I was struggling this bad? And that can allow you to phrase these questions better if your friend's going through a hard time, breakup, family member died, whatever, right? It's important for sure. And once again, circling back to have these friends, to have that circle, it's huge. I had my childhood role model, Dan Roto, big time Leafs fan, by the way. He was talking about anxiety, and he deals with it. And the way he explained it to people was that anxiety, or I guess the way that he framed it in a way that if you're struggling with it, this is a good way to think about it. He said that anxiety is really just your scared friend. It's worried about you, It overthinks. It's up to you as a person, you understand anxiety's there. It's in your corner. It's like scared about things. It's worried. But it's if you can, going through this thunderstorm. If you can kind of put yourself aside and understand that and think, okay. We got this. It's chill. Would you say that that's like an accurate kind of way to cope? That's like the best anxiety advice I've ever heard. And I don't even struggle with it. I just know that sounds like it could be very beneficial to someone.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's kind of along those lines. It's like 98% of the time, you're like the worst case scenario isn't going to be what happens. Right. Yeah. And like, that's not going to like, that might not make you feel better in the moment, hearing it, but I think it's valuable too, right? Like, you have to think about how many things truly have to go wrong for it to be like the worst case scenario. But it's really easy when you're in that mindset, when you're in that anxious mindset. And I get that, like, you can't see the other side of it sometimes, and you can't see how it would be better or it'll get better, but it will. And I think, like, kind of like we talked about, like, whether you go down the road of therapy or, using the support group you have around you, friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, parents, whatever, teammates, colleagues at work, like whatever it is. I think like the moment you have someone you can trust is like, I think a very, very pivotal part of it. And, I'm lucky, obviously with the team. I've talked to guys, about, my own mental health before. And, same with them to me, same, me to my girlfriend and her to me, like, we have, I feel lucky that I have a good support network. And I think, it is true though. Like, like when you're in that anxious state, you probably don't really like it can kind of take over you, but like it's not necessarily your entire personality. It's part of who you are for sure, but like it's not all that you are. And I think it's important too to remember that, because like I said, like there's months, years where people go through life and it feels good and everything's easy and it seems like things go your way, and then things don't go your way and all of a sudden you don't know how to deal with it. So and I think like team sports, a great example of that, right? Like things can go great, or individual sports too, I guess. Like things are going great and everything's easy, you're in that flow state and things are just kind of coming and you're winning games, you're winning match, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong and you can't win, you can't score, can't make saves. So you got to be able to, I think, know how to try to approach it, I guess, and like the classic saying, don't let your highs get too high and your lows too low. But in the moment, it's easier said than done. Like when you win a big game, you feel great, and it's easy to get ahead of yourself and be like, oh my God, we're so good. But if you lose or something happens in your life personally, like there's that hurts and has a big impact. Like it's hard to sometimes see the other side. So I think like you have to be aware that it's a part of your life, and I think my thing about it is like I want to understand why.
Yep. All right, another camera break real quick. Dive into the big story of the day here. How long was it? It was April. What's that? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. It's about 7 months ago. Is it still fresh in your mind, the whole experience with the Leafs?
If I look back on it and really think about it, yeah. There's like definitely parts of it like that kind of blur in together, but I mean that's something that's gonna be pretty hard to forget.
It was right in the middle of exam season too.
Yeah, I think I wrote. I wrote like 2 days later or something.
Really?
So
most students here are getting distracted from their studying by like TikTok and shit. You're getting distracted from the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a distraction that I'm very grateful that happened.
How did the whole thing come about? That's a very interesting question. I've wondered, like, who reached out to who? Did they get to your coach? Did they go to the president of UofT? Like, how did that work?
I actually don't really. So they called me and told me it was going to happen that day.
Who's
like
they?
The Leafs.
The Leafs.
Assistant GM there.
Okay. How'd they get your number?
Because I've done, I do the e-bug stuff with them all the time.
Oh,
so
really? Okay.
I've skated with them. Like I've practiced with them a couple times.
Nice.
And stuff like that over the years too. So there's a little bit of a connection there.
Yeah.
And our coaches, like Ryan Medell, has a good relationship with the organization.
Yeah.
So we're lucky for that. If they need players or whatever, we'll send guys to practice and stuff too. So
got it.
So
they were prepared for something like this to happen. They were like, all right, Dubas is at the top. We might need an emergency, UofT goalie here.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just kind of the beneficiary of the situation.
Yeah.
And a placeholder, really, right? So obviously, I'm just lucky that I got to be there and to do it. But it just it all happened really quick. Obviously, that wasn't their ideal situation to be in, right? With the cap and guys getting hurt and stuff is not what they
happened
want.
again?
So,
it was Murray.
Yeah, Murray.
Injury.
Murray was hurt, and it was the whole. Is he going to be out long enough to be on IR or LTIR? So he's off the cap for those days, which didn't end up happening, which is why they couldn't bring up a guy, and couldn't send it. Yeah. And they were trying to sign Matthew Nyes and everything like a week later. So there was a whole bunch of stuff going on. So there was a bunch of moving parts. And like I said, like I was just kind of, I wasn't on the top of anyone's mind. Like there was a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes that I don't really understand. And, that's the organization's, they have people in there that are paid to figure out all that stuff. And like I said, if they call you and they ask you, you're going to go. So I just kind of said, yeah, of course. So
That's awesome. Were you a Leafs fan growing up?
I've been a Leafs fan since I've played in Toronto and stuff. I started playing in Toronto when I was 14 or whatever, and it's hard not to be a Leafs fan then. But I grew up, my dad's a Habs fan, so and I love Carey Price.
There you go.
I grew up loving Carey Price. And they had a couple really good runs there. I did grow up a Habs fan, but I'm definitely a Leafs fan now. So it's kind of funny that they played the Habs that night.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to hold it back. I didn't want to, stir anything up here, but I'm also Habs fan and Leafs.
Yeah.
Habs and Leafs. It's such an impossible combination to explain to somebody, right? My uncle gives me shit for it all the time. He's like, you can't be both. You got to pick one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Habs fan all the time because when we were younger, the house league teams were the NHL teams. When you were 7, you either played for Montreal or Edmonton or Toronto. So when I was on Montreal for that 1 year was the year I scored my first ever playoff goal. Mm-hmm. So that became, a Habs fandom for the rest of my life, basically. But when your whole family cheers for the Leafs, I'm not looking to be in rivalry with them. So, you kind of support the Leafs on the side too. So, no, that's super cool. Carey Price growing up. Carey Price is amazing. Mm-hmm. Carey Price, that's a tough ending that went down there with Tampa. Yeah. It was it was hard to watch. I was rooting for him the whole time.
I think my dad's probably a Leafs fan now. So
yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, definitely a little bit of a different dynamic. My mom's not too into hockey. The only game she watches is when she comes to watch me play.
Fair.
And she's always been like that, but always been super supportive. And then, my dad's family, they're fans of all different teams, but I'd say majority of it's Habs, and I guess some Leafs too. But, I think just being in Toronto though, like you said, being here is Leafs are everything for the city. It just feels like the Leafs are from the months of September to, as far as they go in the playoffs every year is
100%.
It's the talking point. So
every Canadian team is the number one team in their city.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely in Canada, I think that's 100% an accurate statement. Yeah. And everyone, it's infectious.
Yeah.
And the classic Leafs fan is when they win, it's they're the best team in the world, and when they lose, the world's over. So
absolutely.
But it's fun to be along that ride, and I'm gonna watch the game tonight. So
there you go.
And they play Tampa, so it'll be a good one.
Yeah.
So
walk me through the day. You get the call from the assistant GM, and you're ready. You know you're going. This is not a question. What happens from there? When did you get to the rink? You practice with the team, right?
I skated with them before and stuff, but then I didn't know what was going on. I hadn't really heard anything, so I got the call that afternoon. Basically, I don't remember what time exactly, but they were just like, "Hey, can you do this? We need you." So I obviously made myself available. And my gear was all at the rink, at UofT here. So I just, so my girlfriend's got a car at our place downtown, and I got in her car and drove, picked up my gear, and then I was taking it and going into player parking and taking it up and getting my stuff set up in the dressing room, and then it kind of all blurs together. You're there, I don't know, 2.5 hours before the game or whatever it was. And just really trying to just soak it all in and not get in anyone's way or mess up anyone's pregame routine.
Yeah.
was kind of my goal. And then obviously I ended up going in and stuff, but that was nothing I ever expected. So yeah, just really tried to enjoy it all. Like, you're in an NHL dressing room around, all those guys that we cheer for and then, also complain about.
Yeah.
And just like getting to be around all those guys was so cool. I think, cliche too, but like they're exactly, it's like being in our dressing room.
Yeah.
The way they talk and like the goofy stuff they do and their pregame routines and like, guys are superstitious guys, but you can tell guys care about each other. It's just like, they're just, ultimately the difference is they're extremely good at their job,
Right.
and make millions to do it. So, but like the camaraderie and stuff was just funny, kind of being like, yeah, that's exactly what, it's like playing hockey at UofT and everywhere I've played growing up too, like the same level of goofy camaraderie in the room.
That's cool. Were there any players that like stood out as like especially generous or like inviting that kind of welcomed you in?
I mean, honestly, like I can't say enough good things about, obviously I'm going to say this, about the organization, but, like the players were great. Everyone, made, an effort to come up and introduce themselves to me. Samsonov was great, talked to me a bit, and then he really got in the zone and I just didn't want to bug him. So, but like really good guy. Everyone there was great. Like they have nutritionists, they have trainers, they have video coaches, they have, whatever. Like, their coaching staff all came and introduced themselves, obviously, and it was awesome. And then, just being in the room and witnessing them get ready. But after the game, actually, and my girlfriend would say the same thing. Ryan O'Reilly, from around London, had a whole bunch of family at the game, obviously. And he came up after, and we were in the players lounge or whatever. Everyone was pretty much gone from the rink, but he had a bunch of family there, and he came walking by and with his 30 family members, and he came up and introduced himself to like my girlfriend Kelsey and my friends that were at the game too and stuff. So and said like, really nice to meet you guys, really happy you got to be here and experience this, and like shook my hand and said congratulations, and like just like a world-class athlete, and but also like just a really good guy. So that was something that really stood out to me.
That's awesome. Few people can say that they've been coached by Sheldon Keefe, by an NHL coach. How does he compare to like the coaches you've had in your entire career? Like, what is it like listening to him in the dressing room?
I mean, yeah, it's just like he's knowledgeable, obviously. Like he's there for a reason. I think that gets lost a lot of the time too as a fan of a team. Like they don't win or they're not doing well, and like, but like those guys have the job because they're qualified.
Absolutely.
And he's paid his dues, and obviously a really good hockey mind. And you could tell like the way he interacted with the guys, he knew how to get the best out of everyone. And I think that's kind of all. That's the most important thing, I think, for a coach too, right? Like understanding there's 20 however many different personalities on every team, right? You have to be able to find a way to relate to everyone and get the best out of everyone. And I think that was something you could tell was kind of instilled in that locker room too. Like they all and I think I don't know, obviously spent one day with him, but he was great to me, went out of his way, and talked to me before and after the game and stuff too. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. So game starts, you're on the bench. What is running through your mind being that guy? Like, were you thinking that you were going to be going in? Did that go through your mind? Like towards the end, as they were winning 7-1 at any point?
No, didn't cross my mind.
No, they didn't hint to it at all.
No. I had no inclination that it was going to happen. I mean, at one point in the second, Samsonov kind of got up a little bit slow. There was like a backdoor pass, and he stretched, and you could kind of tell it bugged him a little bit, but like he got up and he played the rest of the game. That was probably the most nervous I was. Yeah. Because I remember looking at the clock, and I don't know, it was like 10 minutes left in the second. I was like, oh no. And I don't think anybody would have wanted me to go in there, especially me, right? That was probably the most scared I was. But I'm glad that I had no idea that it was going to happen, that I was going to go in or anything, because it didn't, like, obviously it sounds stupid to say, but like I was trying not to be too nervous. Like by the time halfway through the first period, I just kind of was trying to soak it all in and enjoy it all. And I'm sitting on a NHL bench next to guys coming off for their shifts. And they're sitting next to me. And you hear them talk. They talk to you, talk to each other, like the way they interact. I remember Marner had a 2-on-1 or something, and he came over and he's looking on his iPad after, and he's like, what did I have there? Asking me what I was like. I have no idea what you had. I don't know. But yeah, that stuff's definitely what I'll remember forever. Obviously, getting in there was special, but like I said, I didn't have enough time to. He came over and said after the whistle, he said, "You're going."
Yeah.
That's what Sheldon Keefe said. So I was like, okay. I hopped over and they gave me my helmet and I found my stick and just skated the net. Tried not to fall over and just survive.
Absolutely. I think it feels like they were playing for you that night because they got a big lead. If it was a close game, if it was 3-2, then it probably wouldn't happen.
No. Yeah.
7-1 lead. I think that they wanted you in there.
I'm sure the media did because it's the talking point and everything. But those guys ultimately just they want to win.
Yeah.
And it's a rivalry game, right? It's Montreal, and they want to beat the Habs. The Habs want to beat them. So I don't know if I'd say it was for me. I think they all want to score goals and they all want to get points and they all want to win. But obviously the stars just kind of aligned, and like you said, if it was 3-2 or 2-1, whatever. Probably doesn't happen, but if it's a 6-goal lead with 70 seconds left, I should be able to handle that.
Be able to lock it down.
But it all really just kind of flew by, and I'm glad I had so many people that I got to share it with, and I'm glad there's photos because a lot of the stuff I don't even remember.
Yeah. It would be like that. Getting on there, standing ovation, last 70 seconds. Was your heart racing? How when the clock started, when the puck dropped. And the game's going on, you got the entire Montreal roster trying to score on you. Mm-hmm. Is compare that to playing in the OUA, playing on the Varsity Blues. Are you locked in? Are you really just in your hockey mode trying to make saves, or is it different?
Yeah, I was just kind of you just get competitive again.
Yeah.
Right. That was what it was. Honestly, obviously, no one's expecting me to make say if I let a goal and no one's gonna be upset with me.
Right.
I didn't want to let in a goal, and I didn't want to let in a bad goal, especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. You kind of gets blurry, I guess. Kind of tone it out, as crazy as that may sound, but you do. You just kind of your adrenaline gets going again, and then just in hockey mode. Obviously, they're faster and shoot the puck harder, and smarter than we are, or in our league, and if I think that's a fair thing to say because if we were all those things, we would be at that level. But
fair.
So I think that was just the big difference. But again, I was just trying to focus, and I didn't want to get scored on really.
Nice. Yeah, that's fair. How was the reaction post game? UofT is super proud. They're mainly for themselves, right? They have a student athlete that's playing on an NHL team, one of the most historically successful NHL teams, I would say. How was the reaction after that? Were you getting calls? Was your phone blowing up? People coming out of the woodwork? What's going on?
Yeah. It was crazy. I was getting DMs and texts and whatever, but I had my phone off the entire game, and I basically texted my parents because they were at the game and my girlfriend after, and it was just I didn't even look at everything else until really the next day. I probably started to maybe look at things. That night was just kind of I couldn't even begin to go through my phone.
Yeah.
And that isn't because I don't want to say thank you to everyone that reached out. It's just because I didn't have the mental capacity that night to do it.
Yeah. And
I would have been overwhelmed, and I just wanted to try to enjoy it. I basically sent a text in our group chat last year, in our team group chat, and I was like, hey guys, come to my house. Everyone knows where I live. We have guys are always over and doing whatever. And I just said, hey guys, come over if you want to have beers or whatever. And by the time I got home, probably had like 15 guys that from, you know, my buddies and like guys on the team and stuff too that were, you know, there, and we just hung out and talked and didn't do anything crazy, didn't go out and spend a bunch of money. Really just tried to, you know, just hang out with my friends and enjoy it. And that's all I really wanted to do, is just like, you know, be around the guys that, you know, I care about and they care about me, and, you know, that were happy for me and all that. And, you know, I'm really lucky that I had so many people that I got to enjoy it with.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. What's left for you in this year? Is your last year at UofT? What do you want to achieve? What are your goals? What's the plan?
Like I said, like first and foremost, I want to, you know, make an impact, a positive impact on this program, and on the young guys, and, you know, be someone that they can look up to, but also trust and know that I care about them. Being a good teammate's a lot more valuable than being a good hockey player. That's true in every aspect of life, and like even on, you know, even when playing the sport, like if you're a good guy and you bring that camaraderie, it makes a team closer. And I think that's way more valuable than, you know, scoring goals or making, you know, a couple big saves. Obviously that's huge too, and I want to win. You know, I think that's really our aspiration. Seeing what we're doing right now with the amount of guys we have hurt, we're playing well, we're winning games, and, you know, we're hanging around, and we've had a good start. And I think, you know, that's, you know, something that we just started looking to build off of, and we know we're going to get guys back and healthy again, and, you know, continue to kind of try to roll here. And I think that's really what we're looking forward to.
It's awesome. It's been a great interview. It's been a great talk. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate
it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Where can people donate to Movember?
Yeah, so there's our team has a Movember page. It's on like the Varsity Blues men's hockey social media. You know, we have the social media team that does our Instagram and I think our Twitter and our TikTok and stuff. The links in my bio as well. I'm gonna make sure I try to post stories, you know, as often as I can. I'll give people the mustache update too, and maybe do something fun with it here, and try to get the word out there. But yeah, just the Varsity Blues men's hockey Instagram account, or my personal account too also has a link in the bio. So
awesome. At VBlues Hockey on Instagram, at Jett.A on Instagram. You can donate there to the cause. I'm sure you can also see the schedule for the team if you want to go watch them play. They're doing good. They're winning. Wish you the best of luck this year. And yeah, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the VoV podcast every Sunday. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Voices of Vic. Like the interview. It was great. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited to watch this one. And we will see you next Sunday. Peace out.